This is Prem Thacker asking a question of the State Department.
The U.S. issued certain statements mourning the loss of life from some of these killings. And you talk about deterrence. Just hours ago, 2 twins who were newborn were killed in Gaza with their mother and grandmother as their father went to collect their birth certificates. They're 4 days old, born into war, experienced only war, killed by war. How is the U.S. responding to this instance, given, again, this comes a day after the U.S. celebrated?
So I'm not going to speak to specific instances and incidents that happen. I will let the IDF speak to any operations they can take. I will say, just hearing this from your reporting, this is obviously incredibly heartbreaking. Again, Israel has every moral and strategic imperative to minimize civilian loss, but I don't have any of the other contours surrounding this operation, and I will let the IDF speak to that.
Finally, just one, on a case that you do have contours for. It's now 197 days since Hindu Job was killed, her family members were killed, the medics said they were killed. What's the update on that?
I don't have any updates for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a question.
So he asked about Hind Rajab at the end. Right. He's been Prem Thacker keeps asking that question, which is so important.
No, I mean, first of all, God bless the State Department press corps, right? Because there are some incredible reporters there who are pressing, Matt Miller and, every single day. And, so they are doing an incredible job trying to hold these people's feet to the fire. But, what we see time and time again is people just, brushing it off, as Vedant did just there. It's been 197 days, as Prem said, since Hind Rajab's killing. That was the subject, by the way, of an incredibly powerful Al Jazeera documentary, whose name I'm trying to remember.
The Night That Won't End.
The Night That Won't End. Thank you.
Yeah. We had them on. Yeah.
Where there is.
يعني ايش تجيب البسكوت الواد ما تلاقيش ابنك تلاقيه نايم تمه كله رايح.
We have counted more children killed in a single strike than we have in any other conflict, time and time again.
Hind was screaming for help.
والله أصعب شعور في العالم إني أسمع بنتي بتقول لي تعالي خديني ومش قادرة أصلها.
It's very likely that they would have been able to see who was in the car.
The US has actual knowledge that war crimes are being committed. Of course we do.
You are basically saying the rules are no longer applicable. They have opened the door to hell.
كلنا بصوت واحد إحنا مدنيين.
بلشوا في الإعدامات قدام عينينا كنا.
What is your message to the families of Palestinian civilians who were killed with US weapons in Gaza?
Yeah, I mean, there is massive forensic evidence of exactly what happened to that 6-year-old girl in the car with her family, who watched her family being gunned down around her and eventually died. At the same time that the ambulance that was on its way to save her, who had been given permission to go by the government of Israel, was bombed and the ambulance crew just killed by the government of Israel. So incredibly distressing story, but not one about which the facts are very much in doubt. You can go back further, right? Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian-American journalist for Al Jazeera, who was killed in Jenin in an incident that the Israeli government repeatedly pointed to the Palestinians and said that this wasn't us, and then ultimately actually it came out that yes, it was. And yet, no significant action has been taken against the soldiers involved in that. And the State Department's position continues to be, well, we're waiting for the government of Israel to investigate themselves. Part of the problem here is that the State Department and the US government have this continuing line that Israel has a functioning, military justice system. We trust them to investigate themselves, and there's nothing to back that up. In fact, my experience is that not only is the Israeli military justice system incapable of investigating itself, but Israeli intelligence, when it comes across the transom in the connection with, civilian harm incidents, is frequently inaccurate and intentionally misleading. And there are others as well who can testify to that, including Colin Powell's former chief of staff, Larry Wilkerson, who has said Israel lies, and it lies at every opportunity it has when it comes to this sort of thing. At the same time, right, there's an intent here. The US does not want to see Israel coming before the International Criminal Court. I think increasingly a part of that is protecting ourselves from our own complicity, because if Israel has been committing war crimes, they've been doing it with our weapons that we've been authorizing in full consciousness of what is happening. But the International Court is a court of last resort, the International Criminal Court. It can only function after there has been no effort in the country where the incidents have happened to apply the course of justice. And so by saying that Israel has a functioning military justice system and a functioning accountability system, the US is also sort of trying to say, well, there's no need for the International Criminal Court to be involved because, Israel is going to take care of it. Unfortunately, that's blatantly not true. And, time and time again, we have seen incredibly vivid and detailed examples of violations that have occurred without any sort of real consequences. So I think we do need to be very conscious of that line and of that lie, and of course of the double standard, right? And that's the final point I'll make on this, which is, when Russia commits these sorts of atrocities, which they do, the State Department is rightly very quick to call them out, very quick to attack them for, when a school is bombed in Ukraine, the US doesn't say, well, we need Russia to look into it, and we're still waiting on the results of their investigation. We say, this was another atrocity by Putin's forces. But when Israel does it with our weapons, and that is certainly something we have much more insight into than we do in than we do into Russian forces operations. We stand by and wait for Israel to investigate itself and take no action. So again, it's that double standard at play that ultimately is, again, damaging, to us, but also to the global rule of law, to international law itself. When we are doing everything we can to evade the international rule of law and to undermine its functionality, that sets precedents where other countries, other abuses will happen, and people will say, well, you didn't speak up in that context. Why should we listen to you now? Or why should we pay any attention whatsoever to this system, which is clearly constructed to, attack others and protect yourselves? So we do an immense amount of harm at multiple levels through our continued unwillingness to recognize and act on these violations.